Life and building. We see this in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, and we also see it actually this is throughout the entire Bible. It's about life and building. Maybe these two words are very simple. If you ask someone in, I don't know, first grade, they will tell you something about life. They can tell you something about building. But of course, what we're talking about is a lot deeper than that. Let's look at our key verse here in 1 Corinthians chapter 3. Let's read this together, verse 9. For we are God's fellow workers. You are God's cultivated land, God's building. Okay, so highlighted God's cultivated land and God's building. Apostle Paul put these two things together. And you, referring to the church in Corinth, the believers there, they're God's cultivated land. What is a cultivated land? Well, it's a land that is not wild. It's cultivated. You know, if you cultivate a land, what is it for? It's a farm. It's a farm for growing crops, growing life, growing produce, right? Food, life for food. But Paul also put this together with God's building. He's telling the believers, you're God's farm and God's building. What does life has to do with building? Okay, wow. Well, we realize that this is a very central point that we cover throughout the whole Bible. So this is what we want to get into tonight. Now let me ask you, what do you think is the first time the Bible used this word build? Genesis? What chapter? 2. Chapter 2. Right, the second chapter for the entire Bible. We have this verse, Genesis 2:22. How about we read it together? And Jehovah God built a rib which he had taken from the man into a woman and brought her to the man. Well, we know that when God create man, he formed man from the dust of the earth. But when he create woman, this time it's different. He said God built a woman. You know, with man, he just kind of play with the sand. But more serious than that, but you know, according to God's image, he made man. Oh, but with woman, this is different. God built a woman. You know, when you build something, you better be careful. You know, I don't know if you know, Berkeley Bay area has the risk of earthquake. You know, when you build, you got to be careful. You got to plan. You got to consider what materials you're going to build, what foundation you're going to build it on. So built is not a small word. And God built a woman. And it's very interesting. He built how? By taking a rib from man, and he built a woman. Why does God do that? Why does he take the life of a man and build it into a woman? Life and building. What is it? It's a mystery, right? Well, this mystery is unveiled in the New Testament. Okay. So this next two verses in Ephesians, chapter 5, Apostle Paul was talking about the relationship of husband and wife. And in verse 32, it said, this mystery is great, but I speak regard to Christ and the church. Okay, so I'm going to start writing something on the board. Actually, I'm going to have Noah. Can you help me to write something on the board? So just start 2 columns here, and then you put down, we start with man and woman. One side you put man and woman. Just put Adam on one side and Eve on the other side.
Wait, put man and woman?
Yeah, woman. And then So, yeah. Okay, and then Adam and Eve, the first man is Adam, right? And then the woman is, yeah, that's okay, correct it. Adam and Eve. Okay, another piece of information is husband and wife. Husband and wife. And then the next you will put Christ and church. Okay? So you see the mystery here? God created man and woman, male and female, Adam and Eve. Actually, that's a picture of husband and wife. Actually, altogether is a picture of Christ and the church. I'm going to have you to write more later, but you keep that marker, okay? So Christ, okay, Christ is typified by man, Adam. He's the husband, the universal husband. And we, as the church, we're typified by the woman. So just as God built woman with the life of man, today he is building the church with the life of Christ. So you see the connection, life and building. God's building is the church. And the way he built the church is with the life of Christ. Okay, concerning the church, in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, Paul continued to tell us a little bit more about that. Okay, it said, do you not know that you are the temple of God? Wow, the temple of God. We are the temple of God. What is the temple of God? In the Old Testament, that's God's house, God's dwelling, right? And what is the house for? House, firstly, is for rest. You know, tonight after fellowship night, maybe you have more homework, but after you finish your work tonight, what are you going to do? You know, I'm going to go home and rest, right? A house is for rest. But then it continues to say that the Spirit of God dwells in you. Okay, actually, the house is also a dwelling place. It's a dwelling place where God dwells. In the Old Testament, that's where the glory of God is. You know, the priest would go to the temple, to the holiest place in the temple. There, the glory of God is. That is the place where the priest can communicate with God. Okay, so the temple is a dwelling place of God. The church today is a dwelling place of God. The Spirit of God dwells in you and I. Next, Paul also said that if anyone destroy the temple of God, God will destroy him. Okay, so God's satisfaction. This is related to God's satisfaction. You know, if that's something that you love, that satisfies you, you know, let's say Jeremy has a piece of, I don't know, what do you like? A piece of model that you like, you know, that you built, and you really like it. And if Noah destroy it, oh my goodness, Jeremy might destroy you, Noah, because that piece of toy Jeremy really loves and is really satisfied with that, right? Wow. The church as a temple of God is God's satisfaction. It's God's love. Remember, husband and wife. God treats us as his wife. And the next thing, Paul says that the temple of God is holy. Holy is referring to the nature of God. It's not common. It's for God. It's separated for God. And such are you. So we today as the church should also be holy, bearing his holy nature. This is related to our nature, the characteristic, and also bearing the expression of God. So that is what the church is. It's the house of God. It's the dwelling place of God. It is where God finds his satisfaction. It is his love. It is holy. It bears his expression. So this is what we see in 1 Corinthians chapter 3 concerning the church. Okay, now we want to see that actually this building have everything to do with God's goal. this is what God is doing from eternity, in the New Testament age, for the fulfillment of His eternal plan. He wants to build His church. Okay. The next verse on your handout is Matthew 16:18. When the Lord was on earth, He said this to Peter, said, "Upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of Hades shall not prevail against it." God wants to build a church. The church is for God's rest, satisfaction, is His love, it's for His expression. It is God's desire. Everything that God wants to put into is for the church. And so the gates of Hades, refer to Satan's, God's enemies, would also do everything to prevent it from being built. All right? So we know that God wants to build His church. Christ came and He said that I will build my church, but how does He practically do it? So Ephesians 5, chapter 5, 25 through 27, these three verses give us a three-step procedures that God would accomplish this will. Verse 25, He said, Christ also loved the church and gave Himself up for her. That's referring to His redemption. He died on the cross for the producing of the church. This was happened in the past, 2,000 years ago. Christ died on the cross, gave Himself up for her, for the church. And then verse 26 is that He might sanctify her. This is our experience today. Today we're experiencing God's sanctifying word. It's sanctifying us by the washing of the water in the word, that we may be prepared, we might be perfected, that we might grow in life. That, in verse 27, He said, that He might present the church to Himself glorious. So at the second coming of Christ, He will come for the church as His bride. The bride that He loved, that He has been waiting for, longing for. He's waiting for us today to be sanctified. Yeah, to be sanctified, to be washed, right? We have a lot of blemishes, but a lot of spot and wrinkles, but the Lord is washing us by the washing of the word. That in the coming age, when the Lord come again, the church can be presented to Him, right? To Him. That would be glorious, right? Okay. And these two verses in Revelation confirm that this will happen. Chapter 19, verse 7, it says, "Let us rejoice and exhort, and let us give the glory to Him, for the marriage of the Lamb has come." Yes, and His wife has made herself ready. So we and I need to be prepared as the wife for this marriage, right? We have to make ourselves ready, okay? Later tonight we will see what we must do, what we can do to prepare ourselves, to make ourselves ready. Okay, and one more verse here, Revelation 21, verse 2. Now we kind of go back to, we see the building here. "And I saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, prepared as a bride adorned for the husband." So this universal bride, the church, is also called the holy city. Okay, Noah, I need your help now. You got to put holy city and New Jerusalem on the board. Okay, but except this time you got to wipe that. That's not two columns now. Just put holy city. Just should I put holy on one side, city on the other side? But I mean, it's one thing, holy city. And then New Jerusalem. New Jerusalem. Okay, so these are the key words concerning life and building. Okay, and you look, in the eternal future, will be called the holy city, the New Jerusalem. This word holy is referring to God. City is referring, we consider something earthly. New, who is new? God is new. And Jerusalem, we know today as an earthly city, but eventually these two will combine. It's one name. It's called Holy City, the New Jerusalem. So, we started with men and women, Adam and Eve, husband and wife. They are two separate entities. But when you see Christ in the church, actually, you start to consider actually Christ dwell in the church. The two started to become one, right? And eventually, in eternity, God's building is just one entity, the holy city, the New Jerusalem. That is God and man mingle together for eternity. That is God's goal. That's God's goal. And it's all come from life to God's building. And you fulfill God's eternal plan at the end. So I hope we are impressed with this. God has a plan, and we're involved with it. We're right here. We're the church. We're God's building. And today our experience is to allowing God to make more home in us, to mingle with us more and more, and eventually, in the coming age, there will be the holy city, the New Jerusalem. This is our destiny. Okay, so the next session, which is the last session, we have here say the growth and transformation in life for God's building. So in 1 Corinthians chapter 3, we also see that for God's building, there's the need of growth and transformation. And we see in these three verses, verse 6, 12, and 13. Verse 6, Paul said, I planted, Apollos watered, but God caused the growth. As believers, we need to grow in life. Life is for building, and we need to grow in life. This building will fulfill God's purpose, so we need to grow in life. Verse 12 to 13 speak concerning something even deeper, something more concerning the building. It said, but if anyone builds upon the foundation, gold, silver, precious stones, wood, grass, stubble, these are all different kind of building materials, the work of each will become manifest, for the day will declare it, because it is revealed by fire, and the fire itself will prove each one's work of what sort it is. So we have to consider, as believers today, our Christian life, our living in a church, what do we build with? Wood, grass, and stubble, these are some natural materials, and they cannot pass through the test of fire. But gold, silver, and precious stones, these are particular materials that are strong, that can withstand fire, which typify our trials. And for this, we need the transformations. Just a little note here, gold in the Bible, it typifies God's holy nature, God's divine nature. Silver in the Bible, it refers to his redemption. So we need to experience the imparting of God's nature into us. We also need to experience the redemption. But precious stones in the Bible, it typified a work that is transformed by the work of the Holy Spirit. Stones become precious when it experience the pressure and a change is in a formation, and a change in expression. So related to transformation, I think it would be good to explain it with an illustration. Okay, so a transformation, as you can see here, this is an example. You know what this is? This is a butterfly. Yeah, what kind of butterfly is it? Monarch. Yeah. Do you know this is the season right now? I took these pictures at the back of my apartment. Yeah, I took that just a couple days ago. Yeah, this one too. Yeah, this one too. But this is a caterpillar. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a small one right there. Yeah. And then it eats, and then it grows. It gets bigger. But for the caterpillars to grow into a butterfly, it got to be transformed, right? So it got to go into this form of a cocoon. It's kind of limited in it. I took these pictures about 2 weeks ago. This is like 2 days ago. I checked it out about a couple of hours ago. It's still like that. The butterfly hasn't formed yet, but it's still there. It's being limited in that we find space. But what is going on is undergoing the process of transformation. It's the same life. All these pictures, well, except for that one, I just downloaded from the website. But it will look like that. It's the same life. It's the same life, but the form is different. Yeah, and you see that's the growth in life. That little caterpillars need to eat. As it eats, it grows. I'll show you another pictures. You know what they eat? Seaweed. Yeah, this is the plant. Seaweed, except it doesn't have any more leaves because that caterpillar has already ate all of them. They just have a little bit left. They just eat all of them. That life of the caterpillar is just eating. Besides eating, what do? Not that much. They just eat. Yeah. And then as it eats at some point, it will limit itself into a cocoon, right? And then for a while, maybe a couple of weeks, then it will become a butterfly. Well, this is a picture of our Christian life. Our Christian life, if we want to grow, you got to eat. This verse here, Matthew 4:4, is that man shall not live on bread alone, but on every word that proceeds out through the mouth of God. Every word. It's just like this, every piece of leaves is gone. Yeah. Every word. Do we love the Bible? Do we treat this as our spiritual food? That we would eat it. Eat it. Do we let the word become living to us? To be the word that proceeds out from the mouth of God. We have to learn to eat, learn to dive into the Bible, treat it as our spiritual food, right? And then as we eat, we also realize that our environment would limit us. God would put us into a situation where we are limited. This is the month of October. Some of our fellow club members are not here because they're probably midterms. Papers coming up. How many of you are looking for internship? Think of what you're going to put in your resume. How many of you are stressed with work? In our life, we realize that we're put into a cocoon. Maybe even tonight you're just going to go back to your desk and study. That's your cocoon. But don't just do that by yourself. These couple verses here in Philippians, Paul said to know him and the power of his resurrection and the fellowship of his suffering. Sometime in our life we have suffering. But if we want to know Christ, this is what it's for. We have to turn to him. Call on the Lord. Depend on him. Experience the power of his resurrection. Let him energize us, right? And we would know the fellowship of his suffering. Christ died on the cross. His life was full of suffering, right? He was fully obedient to the Father, yet full of suffering, So as we go through a situation when you feel like you're like that cocoon in there, well, sometimes you just want to I quit. I'm just going to quit that job. I'm going to just drop out. Well, consider it before the law. Bring it to the law. Like the next verse here is say, but we all with unveiled face, beholding and reflecting like a mirror the glory of the Lord. Spend time with God. Talk to Him. Tell Him about your situation. Open to Him with an unveiled face, no hindrance. Just talk to Him, right? And behold Him. Behold His face. Enjoy Him. Enjoy Him. Enjoy His word, His speaking, His word of comfort. You will experience the power of His resurrection, right? You will be beholding and reflecting His glory. And what's next? This will say that we're being transformed into the same image, from glory to glory, from one degree of glory to another degree of glory. You know, we have a little bit of Christ, a little bit of expression of Christ, but as we go through this situation, difficulty experience, you experience some transformation. You express more of God after you go through this experience, right? So don't just stay in a cocoon. Stay there with God's presence. Seek God's presence, His supply to strengthen us, right? And if we do this, you know, even our mind will be renewed, will be transformed. This is Romans 12:2. And eventually that is what would prove what the will of God is. Because that transformation happened in you. You become the precious building materials for God's building. Amen. That is what would prove the will of God, right? So may we take this word and consider this, even consider it, apply it to our experience, our life, things that we're going through. That we may grow in life and also experience a transformation in life, that we would become God's building, the precious material for God's building. Okay, I'm just going to stop here. Okay.